All right, number 7 on page 2 of the final exam review has another projectile. The classic physics problem states that if a projectile is shot vertically up into the air with an initial velocity of 192 feet per second from the initial height of 111 feet off the ground, then the height of the projectile h in t seconds after a shot is given by the following equation. There's a quadratic equation. It's in the proper order. Find the time when the object is 149 feet off the ground, round to the nearest hundredth of a second or 2 decimal places. So we change the 0, we substitute for h as 149. And we're going to be solving for t. All right, step 1. To solve any quadratic, you need to have an equation equals 0 on one side. So we're going to move this 149 over here, get our 0. All right, so that gives us our new A, B's, and C's to use in our quadratic. So t is going to equal a negative 192 plus or minus the square root of 192 squared minus 4a, which is negative 16, negative 38. Not a lot of room here. 2 times negative 16. All right, so t is going to equal negative 192 plus or minus the square root of 192 squared minus, and then there's 3 negatives, so that's going to come out to a negative number, but the 192 is really large, so this is going to be 34432 over 2 and negative 16. So t is going to equal 192 plus and 192 minus. All right, so this is going to crunch out to be 0.20129, and they want 2 decimal places, so 0.2. And this one's going to be 11.7987 rounded to 2. That 8 makes that go all the way up to there. Seconds. So it's a projectile that's starting 111 feet off the ground, right? So it's going up here and then going down to here, down to the ground. But apparently it's going to be at 149 feet here and here. So right after it's shot upward and then on its way down, it will also be at, so here, this one's this one. So 0.2, 149. And this one is 11.8 seconds at 149 also. Okay. Number 8, determine the number and type of solutions for the following quadratic. Number and type of solutions is code for tell me the discriminant. All right, discriminant is the, here, let's write the quadratic formula up at the top here. Keep writing it down on the top of your paper until you remember it. The discriminant is just the radicand of that, so b squared minus 4ac. That determines the number and types of solutions of your quadratic equation. So if your a, notice that the 0 is there, so that means this is good and in proper order. So a is negative 3, b is 6, and c equals negative 3. So b squared minus 4 AC is going to be 6 squared minus 4 times negative 3 times negative 3. 36, oops. Stay up here, 36, 3 negatives, going to be negative 12 times 36 equals 0. Okay, so if you have a 0, if your discriminant is 0, then there is one real solution. All right, so you go over here, it's not 2, it's not 2, it's not 2 imaginaries, it's not irrational and all these other things, it's irrational. Well, okay, so what is it going to be? I think this is going to factor if that negative wasn't there. Here, let's try something. If you take that negative out, because I don't know how to factor anything with a negative in it. Hang on. If you get the negative out of there, you're going to have 3x plus, oops, not plus, minus 6x plus 3 equals 0. 3x, x, and then both signs will be negative, and then the 3 is going to have to go here, and then if you factored that with the zero product rule says that both of these need to be solved here. Let's see, 3x equals 3. I'm just trying to prove a point. I'll get there in just a second. So this one came out to 1 and this one came out to 1. So that's what it means by a repeated rational solution. Okay? All right. Let's see, number 9 is a quadratic 2. I may need that space over there, but let's see how we do. It just says to solve. So any way you want to solve, 45 is what, 5, and no, that's not gonna, it's not going to factor. So let's see, a is 1, b is negative 6. So x is going to equal a negative 6. Don't forget to double the negative for the opposite b for your quadratic here. Plus or minus negative 6 squared. The squared's always going to turn out positive because it's squared. All right, that's all over 2 times 1. So this is going to be 6 plus or minus square root of negative 144 over 2. Negative 144, you got to take out the negative 1 as an I. And then 144 is a perfect square. So this is going to be x equals 6 plus or minus 12i over 2, and then we have to reduce. So let's see, can only take a 2 out, so 3 plus or minus 6, yeah, over 2. Can only take out but so much. So our final answer is going to be x equals 3 plus 6i and 3, oops, minus, I probably should put the minus first, huh? Doesn't matter. That's an I. Okay. All right, number 10 is has in function notation. Excuse me, A just wants you to substitute a negative 4 everywhere there's an x. So negative, it's very important to use your parentheses with these negatives, because order and operation comes into play. So this is going to be negative 16, and then a negative times a negative is a positive 56 plus 9, and all that's going to come out to 49. Okay. Vertex formula. Negative b over 2a. Remember, the vertex formula is the front part right here of your quadratic formula. Okay, so vertex formula, negative b. Here's your b. Negative b would be going to be a positive 2 times a. So 14 over negative 2 is going to give you a negative 7. That is one part of the vertex, just the x part. We need the y part. We need to say when x is 7, what is y? So in functional notation form, that looks like that. And remember, we're up here still. I'm sorry, this is getting kind of messy. So negative 7 squared minus 14 times negative 7. Watch all these negatives here. Plus 9. Okay, so this is negative 49 plus 98 plus 9. So the f of 7 equals 58. Okay, so that means the vertex, the answer to this problem is negative 758 in the ordered pair for the vertex. Okay. And the y-intercept is when x equals 0, so f of x equals, so you could put, hang on, let's put the 0 in there, is 0 squared, or negative 0 squared, minus 14 times 0 plus 9. So the y-intercept is 9. Or 0, 9 if they want an ordered pair. Okay? So notice that we did f of 0. Now they want to know when the whole thing is 0, or the y equals 0, what happens. So that has to go on the end, and that's a whole different thing here. That means that's 0. And the rest needs to be solved for x. Okay? Find the two values of x. Solve for x. So it's in the quadratic formula. Let's go ahead and do the, it's in quadratic form, so let's do the formula. So negative 14, opposite b, plus or minus square root of 14 squared minus 4, minus 1, 9. All right, I always write all that out, and then you find the discriminant first by itself. All right, so x is going to equal 14 plus or minus square root of 232 over negative 2. All right, so x equals 14 minus 232. Let's go with plus first. All right, we crunched that out in your calculator. Remember, you're doing the whole numerator first, and then divided by negative 2, so that's going to give you a minus 14.2. Okay, and then 14 minus negative 2, that's going to give you the 0.62. Round your to 2 decimals and list with a comma between them. So x equals negative 14.62 comma 0.62. Okay? It says it's parabola, but it doesn't really have, notice it's not a projectile. It doesn't have any context, so it's just he's asking for both answers. Okay? Number 11 looks a little weird because they put the dot in the middle. It's just a quadratic. Y squared plus 4y plus 4 over y squared minus 4. So both of them need to be factored. I shouldn't put an equation. This is just an expression, a rational expression. That's going to factor, and this one's going to factor. This is what, 2? So So final answer is y plus 2 over, see the form of the answer, y minus 2. That's all that is. All right, this one we're going to go ahead and simplify, take out the greatest common factor. And then this is going to factor here. K minus 10 and 9. Okay, I should have wrote it over here. So this is going to be, oops. So this is going to be 5 over k minus 10. All right, remember you can't take the 5 out of that. Sorry, you can't take that 5 out of the 10. This k minus 10 is all one factor. Consider it in parentheses, no taking anything out of the parentheses. So you need the whole thing for the answer. Okay?